Hello and welcome to another episode of the Flashback Cartoon Hour. I'm your loving bald host with the most from coast to coast, Nick Retro Man Lascola. And joining me today is the wonderful Matt K. Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, how are you?
Good. And today we get to do kind of a sister episode to our previous episode we had you on last, which was the Riding Bean OVA.
It's going to be very exciting because Gunsmith Cats basically is the predecessor to Riding Bean.
Yeah, dude. It was is predecessor the first one, or does that
Successor.
Successor.
But a lot of people know Gunsmith Cats more than Riding Bean, which I think is kind of funny.
Yes, dude. And that was the more I read about both of them, the more it was like fans love Gunsmith Cats, and half of them don't even know about Riding Bean, because there is like not really necessarily a decade, because Riding Bean was what, 89?
89, I think it was 89. I'm sure it was 89.
And this was 96, so a little under 10 years.
I remember too, Riding Bean also only got that one OVA episode, 45 minutes. It didn't get anything else.
Whereas this one was 3.
Whoa. Slow down there.
Three
is pretty big. 3 is pretty big and pretty long.
But not to like confuse anybody, so the Gunsmith Cats and Riding Bean, they're related, but Riding Bean is not a prequel or anything. It was like the creator took elements of his first idea, which he turned into Riding Bean, and then he just like kind of was like, oh, what if we do a little bit less about the automobiles and do more about the guns and the shooting? And it was crazy because Bean Bandit, who I would say was the most like solid thing in Riding Bean, he kind of put on the back burner, and then Bean's partner, if you will, Rally Vincent, he basically like reworked her, made her younger, and then was like, what if we like do the focus on her? And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of worked. Like I thought yes, I missed Bean. Obviously, I missed Bean. That dude's a fucking savage. But like these girls, like they kind of held it up on their own. You know, I was very impressed. I liked their dynamic too. I was actually kind of mad at myself with how much I liked Rally and Minnie May, who we'll go into, like their relationship, and even with Becky, the other one.
Do you want to start a quick flame war with people? For anybody who's wondering about where are the strong female protagonists today, I don't know. How about Rally Vincent or Minnie May? I don't know, guys. How about these?
All of them.
How about these gals? Becky from the early 90s. You have a lot of anime characters. So people complain today about there's no female representation, strong female representation. I don't know, guys. Rally, and Minnie or May are really good examples of strong female protagonists within a genre that is predominantly, dominated by men. And
dominated by men. And it was crazy because, like, you really feel like this, because this came out before what's it called, Cowboy Bebop, but like you get that like there's no way that this didn't influence Cowboy Bebop in like a little bit, with the like even just the theme song, the smooth jazz that's playing as like all the action parts are happening, and they were kind of tying it into Riding Bean, so you could tell like Sonata had this like, again, this blueprint, which he kind of got down right away, and then was just added so much cool shit to it this go around with Gunsmith Cats.
It's definitely interesting too, because this takes place way before Cowboy Bebop, way before even something like a Black Lagoon, but they're mercenaries at the end of the day. The premise is like, these gals are just mercenaries, mercs for hire, detectives, whatever you want to call them. But, they're not afraid
to make money.
Trying to make money. They're not afraid to kill, they're not afraid to take people in. And, it does feel like this could have been a precursor to a lot of these other shows, or help influence in a direction that made sense,
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it has to be. There's just so much written in here that you see all over Cowboy Bebop once
Faye Valentine. You kind of get Faye Valentine feels from some of them, from some moments. It's interesting.
And just like the average person that also is like an extremely good marksman kind of thing. But like Rally and May, they literally run a gun shop just so that they can keep money. And then they also do these jobs off on the side, but it's all for like the money, They're not heroes, but they are the hero of the story.
Yeah. They're heroes in a terrible hero. Again, they're not heroes, but heroes in a story based around terrible people. So, I mean,
yeah. Do you want to get the listeners started with that being said on like episode 1? Because we're going to go through the 3 episodes with you guys.
Absolutely. Let's this is going to be a little bit more off the cuff, we're not, but we're going to start with episode 1.
Because we both just watched it. This is more of our like reaction to it. I wanted Matt's like fresh reaction. You're getting my fresh reaction too, because this is my first time also watching Gunsmith Cats. Though I did watch it like 3 times in a row. The first time on YouTube, all out of order too. It was a nightmare. I'll tell you guys where to go at the end of the episode.
And kind of off camera, I made the joke to him. Well, you know what? You should have brought your homework. Yeah, man didn't take any notes. I took notes. You should have brought your homework.
I did slack this time.
I'm gonna be a teacher's pet. I brought my notes.
Actually,
quite factually, you're gonna not pass this class. Actually, nerd.
Yeah. Actually, quite factually, your notes are unsatisfactory.
Oh, he alliterated me. Oh my gosh. Alliteration, my enemy. But starting off on episode 1, it actually kind of starts off very similar to, if anybody's ever watched Black Lagoon, kind of like a Black Lagoon episode where they get a call from an informant.
Gunsmith Cats, thank you for calling. What? Becky, that doesn't make sense.
Well, Washington was arrested on suspicion of drug smuggling, but when the feds busted his shop, it was totally clean.
That's nuts. Why would he take off if he knew he wouldn't be charged?
You didn't ask me to find that out.
I just don't get it. Hey, Becky, could you dig up some more dirt on him? Something smells.
Will you pay me this time?
Bloodsucker.
Well, actually, sorry, it starts off more with a bang where they're chasing down someone named Washington. You don't know that, but his name is Washington. He's recurring up until episode 2, but you don't know this. They're chasing a criminal, someone with a bounty on their head. And, kind of leads into a apartment chase scene, very loosely. He gets chased backed into a corner and gets flashbanged. He's panicked, he gets flashbanged. But that's where it starts. And then it cuts right to Rally and May at their shop. And you get introduced to these 2 characters. They're on a phone call, like I said. They're getting information from an informant. You don't know who they're... It's you find out it's Becky, but... we'll get to Becky later because she shows up more at the end of 2 and 3, but you don't know who it is.
I consider her a member of Gunsmith Cats, don't you? She's just the girl in the chair.
I think she's supposed to be. I think she just says some sass.
She's not a field agent. She's just the girl in the chair.
Yeah, but you don't know that because you just assume it's it's one of their informants, one of their wires.
But I do love the cop that came into their shop and was like trying to hit on Rally and
K9 unit guy. yeah.
And she's like already on her shit because like she's like the minute he pulls out the gun, she's like, you should really get that checked out because it sounds like there's a couple of bolts like loose or something. So like she's almost got this like sixth sense when it comes just to gun related things. Like so she can tell if there's bullets in a gun without like looking.
That's what I really liked about her character right away, though. She wasn't almost no nonsense, but she was no nonsense on the stuff that mattered, which was guns. She understood that a gun was designed to kill. It's designed to kill and keep yourself safe. She's no nonsense about it. She immediately points that out, like you said, takes the bullet out, saying, "Hey, my guy, if you want a commission, make sure you come in here knowing your stuff because you have one in the chamber still." But But he plays it off almost like he was testing her in a way too, because in a way he was, you know, saying, "Oh, like, you know your stuff, so can I get this commission done?" She's like, "Sure. What do you need done?" You know.
He also reveals that he's a cop too in the process. He's like, "Oh, I'm a cop, and this is the one I use."
I'm part of the canine unit. Part of the canine unit. I use a revolver.
You ought to be more careful. Did you realize you left a bullet in the chamber?
Oops, my mistake. Your form's filled out.
Thanks. I'm guessing that you're a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this'll make your gun heavier.
That's for my private collection. I'm in the canine section, so I carry one of these puppies.
A revolver, huh? I'd suggest you bring that in for maintenance soon. Sounds like you've got some loose parts to me.
I do?
Oh. You know, it's really simple stuff, but it's very
you're
telling.
Really picking up on, like, Rally, like, this whole time, like, it is a huge improvement on the Rally that we got in Riding Bean, because she didn't really contribute too much. She was just like the secondary, like, backup for Bean. But this, like, her personality is an improvement. She's snarky but cute at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, she's kind of giving him a hard time, but not being like a douche about it.
But once again, let's start a flame war here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know, compared to like Western culture, the way they treat women in anime is downright, you know, both with respect, but also
so much better.
But they understand what to do with these characters, because, you know, you can tell right away. She's got a lot of sex appeal right away, too. The way, you don't want to say her attitude isn't flirtatious by any means, but she's strong. She knows what she's saying. But again, she's not being douchey about it. She's being fun and playful. She understands kind of the tone. If this was Western media, she would have been basically like a drill sergeant up on his ass. And, you know, it's anime, people. It's Japanese media. So the way they present these women, both sexy, but strong and sexy, but not in a douchey, not in a pushover, I know what I'm doing, I'm better than you. No, she just knows her stuff and just kind of shows that. She's like, I know my stuff too. It's like, I know what I'm doing. And I like that. It's a good character.
Yeah.
Really well.
Because I can't really think of an American show that really gave us a strong female lead. In the 80s, you had like Gem and the Holograms, and I'm going off just the Americans, right? And still, like, that had cheesiness, and like purposely it was like, what did men think that girls wanted in their cartoons kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah, it would be like this, Sailor Moon, like it when you really think of like the ones that came and gave us like the strong female characters, it's got to be anime first. Unless like you're going into like Disney movies.
Or even some cartoons too. Like there are some cartoons like Ben 10, for example.
Yeah, but that was way later, you know what I mean? Like we're talking 80s to 90s realm. Like you didn't even get that unless it was just a film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, you're correct. That's, I mean, for me, because I'm a little younger than you, I grew up with that understanding that there was a lot like Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender. She was strong and hard-headed, but, you know, she gets humbled, you know, but she doesn't get offended by being humbled. She grows from being humbled, you know.
Yeah.
Again, in Western media today, a woman, you know, again, no flack towards a lot of media, but they try and present women as these hard-headed brick walls. No, I mean, just like any guy can learn from being humbled from a master, same can go for any woman getting humbled by a master. You know, there's no difference. It's just how the attitude and the presentation of said woman is given off throughout the media, you know.
Yeah.
You know, superheroes too, like, you know, DC, Marvel, you know, the way they try and present women these days, you know, I don't want to be that guy who says She-Hulk was a terrible show, but She-Hulk.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, but
it was funny, but I didn't like her character.
No, but you know, I do like what you bring, like the way you brought that up, because it is a unique perspective that, like, you know, I was born 93, so we've talked about how like even 1 year apart when it comes to what was airing on TV and stuff can be like the difference between like watching Rocko's Modern Life or watching SpongeBob kind of thing. And you growing up in like you had shows where it was like, oh, girls and guys can be like it can be a girl and guy show and stuff like that. When I was a kid and I was younger, it was like these were boy shows, these were girl shows. And eventually there was that when there was like, no, let's stop making it one for each other, and let's try and combine it and make them all into like a show that everybody can enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, it's no flack towards Western media because there's still a lot of good properties out there. But by the standard of what people are saying what a woman should be, no, I look towards anime going, women can be both powerful and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
This that's just how it should be. Women should be able to grow from their mistakes, but they should also be experts in a field as well. Nothing wrong with that. Again, equal rights, equal fights, same thing. A woman, if she wants to stand toe to toe with a man, sure, but there are moments where in Japanese media you can see, like, again, cutting a little ahead, like Vincent needs help, she needs help, Rally needs help, and she gets help from a guy. And in Western media, you wouldn't see that. It'd be something completely different, saying, no, she can handle this. No, Rally gets overpowered.
I'm an independent woman. And I don't need no man. I don't need no man.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But to get back to the episode 1, so the girls get visited by another cop, but
ATF.
The ATF. Yeah, he's an ATF. Do you know what that stands for, by the way?
Didn't look it up, and
I didn't look it up either.
Private. It has to do probably with private. No, he said something. He said what it
gun
was.
Running. It's gun running. It's I think it was alcohol, gun running,
and drugs.
And maybe drugs.
Was it drugs?
I think drugs. Either that or bank robbing. I can't remember.
I'm not dangerous. William Collins, ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Special Investigations.
Hey, Minnie, it's Agent 00711.
We keep our books legal.
But it was in the realm of like those.
More. It was more like almost like private sect of the government or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, more like the private sect than the public sect.
I was like, when he mentioned alcohol, I was like,
the guns thing too. Guns thing too.
Like,
that got me. I was like, guns. I was like,
but that's why he's there to get Rally's help, because he's like, you know everything about guns. You are like the gun person. Will you help me try these? And she's like, no, I don't think so. Nope. And he's like, really? Because I could really use your help. And then he like lays it all down, and they were contemplating it. And then he's like, obviously I can't pay you. And they were like, skirt, like, fucking
get out of here.
Get your fucking ass out of here, dude. And he's like, oh, come on, man.
Uh-huh. Of course, I can't pay you for your services, but I think... Hey!
I'm sorry, but I don't think we have much to discuss then.
The exit is over here.
But from then on, though, I love because it became a running joke that basically she called him a bum the rest of the show. You bum. You're a bum. Stop being a bum. And that was one of my favorite things.
But it was cool because, like, the guy that she did take the job in protecting, the one that we had mentioned earlier, Washington, right?
Washington, yep.
She goes to see him and to protect him, and he reveals that he actually has that detective that came to see them earlier. And the detective he's very Spike-like in his like laid back, kind of lazy, almost like Shikamaru, this is kind of a drag type of attitude that he has throughout the whole series. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like the nonchalant cop that's like, you don't know if he's winging it or if this was his plan the whole time.
Oh, bummer. I really didn't want to resort to an investigation.
Just what are you saying?
All these firearms, you must have a Class 3 license, right?
Huh?
He came off very much calculated. He came off very calculated. He had a lot. There's a lot of moments where you can tell he's a very calculated guy. Going back to the shop when he came there for the first time, like you said, they said, well, I can't offer you anything. They said no. But in retort, he said, oh, well, did you know you needed a license to sell these guns and do these commissions? You know, you don't have these as far as I can tell. These records show that you've got none of them, showing that he came prepared knowing what he was dealing with.
Exactly. Came in there clumsy, klutzy, but then in reality, he was like, oh, no, I mean, let's just lay it on the table. I'm blackmailing you. So you guys kind of have to help us, because he was like, Rally, you got, I don't know if you have a license for all these guns. And then he looked at Minnie May, who's like the demolition person of the team. She's all about bombs and makeshift bombs. He's like, and you and these explosives. And she was like, got mad nervous too.
Very funny stuff. I mean, episode 1 definitely felt like it was setting up the plot. It sounded like it was setting up the plot for episode 2, you know. But, you know, continuing with episode 1.
But so at the same time, our girls are at home and they get ambushed. And, you know, obviously they're no slouches, so they have the whole place rigged. So if anyone comes close, they get woken up right away. And in fact, it was so funny because they were like wicked excited that they were like being invaded. Like they're yeah, like Rally woke up and she was like, there's 3 of them, fucking let's go. She like loaded up. She's
but tells Minnie like, no, you are not allowed to help.
Yeah, she's standing at the stairs listening to them, like who all the intruders with the gun like trying to kill them found their whole like gun stash, and they're like, this place is fucking crazy, there's all ammo in the other room. So Rally's like behind the stairs like listening. She's like, there's 3 of them, I'm gonna fuck them up. And then May is right next to her and she's like holding a bunch of explosions. She's like, no, I'm gonna fuck them up. And then Rally's like, no explosions in the house, May. How many times have I needed to tell you, go back to your room? And May's like,
oh man, I don't want to do that. No,
you never let me have any fun.
3 of them. Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Hold it. Where do you think you're going with those?
But Rally, they're smoke grenades.
No explosions in the house, May. Now go back to your room.
Aww.
Yeah, almost. It really does feel like, you know, they're supposed to feel like sisters in a way, but I mean, so eventually they do take on the job, you know, and man, it was, I think I had some issues with episode 1 personally when it came to the pace it was moving at, but maybe because it was an OVA.
Slow.
Yeah,
Yep.
3 episodes.
2 and 3 definitely pick up.
Yeah, so episode 1 continuing through, once they start doing, once they take on the job, Washington gets put into custody. So their job is to essentially, he was still in custody. He was on bail. He was on post bail. And it was Rally's job to find a way to get him out of bail, aka get the information. So she paid off the bail.
Thank you.
She paid off the bail, which that was her way to get it. That was her way to kind of get into cahoots with the ring that they were working on to try and figure out where the guns were coming from.
Yes.
So that led into that whole thing.
So the girls see that the detective is tied up in the chair, and he's like, my boss wants you to kill him to like prove yourself. And Rally makes it seem like she's like, you know what? This motherfucker was blackmailing me earlier. So like, yeah, I'm going to put a bullet in him. But instead, she like triple shots like the goons in the room. And then the detective picks up a chair and flings it at another goon. And so they have Washington.
And again, kind of, you know, I want to critique it a little bit in my mind because I really liked episode 1, but that moment didn't feel as tense just because the music. For me, a lot of it comes down to sound and music. That moment didn't feel as tense. Like, you knew Rally was going to find a way to get the detective out of there. Kind of a trope. You know, I had the trope in my head. But the problem was, going into this, if I was a blind watcher, didn't know anything about anime or tropes, I would have liked to have music that was a little more tense, kind of built up drama, you know. But because the pace was a little fast in that moment, it kind of threw off the whole scene for me. Cool, it was a great action sequence, from start to finish, but
fantastic sequence.
But the music wasn't hitting right in that moment. The pacing was a little off. The tone shift wasn't there. I watched this in dub, so the dubbing wasn't nearly as good. I kind of started to listen to some of the sub. The sub sounded way better than the dubbing.
Really? I watched the dub.
Which I think kind of breaks my heart because I feel like dubbing in the early 80s and 90s and even some in the 70s was actually really good. You get a lot of good dubbing and a lot of good passion behind the voices. This felt awkward because I can get into it a little later in episode 2, but there was some moments where key points during, I feel like during recording, they're like, just scream, just do a scream. Doesn't have to fit the moment, just scream. And it kind of feels off-putting when you hear certain not voices, but when you hear certain lines and certain dialogue choices. I'm going, guys, that feels a little off because it doesn't fit the moment we're dealing with here. Again, Rally's voice acting in that moment felt fine. She felt absolutely fine.
I think throughout the whole series. And I hear what you're saying. I think for me, maybe it's because we're coming off of Riding Bean, where I just like that dubbing is really rough. So like maybe this is rough, but it's so much better than what they previously had.
I'm also going off the logic of Blue Submarine. I'm going off the logic of Blue Submarine number 6
Blue Submarine number 6. Yeah.
Where like the voice acting. Where the dubbing felt off, but the dubbing also still felt like there was some passion there. Like I said, there are moments where I feel like there's not no passion, because I think most voice actors give a lot of passion to what they do.
Right.
I just feel like the direction in which they wanted the voice actor to, act didn't fit. Because again, dubbing, from subbing to dubbing is much different. You're trying to take interpretations of what the sub is. So in that, like I said, in that moment where the detective is captured, held at gunpoint, they want Rally to do it to prove her loyalty to, to their boss. That moment could have been, I feel like that moment could have been, they could have held on to that moment a little bit longer, could have stayed on the point of Rally kind of like airing her grievances, and then music gets a little more tense until like maybe the track changes, which it did, really good moment. Track changed as soon as she pulled the trigger. Boom, snare drums kick in, music kicks in. But I would have liked a little more build up to that moment. It would have helped it would have helped build the mood a little bit more, because I like it when someone truly makes it seem like they're about to betray you. Deceit. Deceit, But Rally never gave that to me when she was talking. I was like, okay, so you gotta find a way, because even her going, one bullet, what, don't you trust me? I'm like, no, I don't, I don't. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't.
For me, my biggest thing when it comes to episode 1 is, like you said, it's slow, and there was no one to there was no big bad to challenge Rally yet. Like when she was in the room, you did feel like she was the best combatant in that room, so she was gonna win no matter what.
Oh, perfect.
What? Get her!
Hold it right there.
Let's talk this over, please.
Now, do you see what can happen when you're too suspicious? Just take it!
Huh?
Like in 2 and 3, and we're about to go into that, like once we get the Russian chick to the Russian assassin, like once she comes in, and then there's this element of like, you don't know if Rally could beat her in a one-on-one kind of thing.
Yep.
Someone to challenge her, like a big bad, like the boss kind of thing. She just kind of had Washington and some goons that she would like beat up and shot quickly.
Yep. I will say though, as the episode kind of progressed through, you get that moment, wow, we saved Bill, the ATF detective. Cool. But I will say, when you get towards the end, there's a really nice moment where, like you said, no one's challenging her at first. You kind of feel like she's good. She does get backed into a corner. The lights, they managed to turn off the lights. And now Rally is going in blind. Same with Bill. Both of them are blind. They don't know where each other are. They're trying to coordinate with one another. A very beautiful moment was when they completely shut off all the music. The music just completely went away. And it felt like you were in a warehouse, dead silent near a harbor, and all you could hear was the sound diegetics of just emptiness or just the ambient sound of a city in the background with the sound of maybe some birds. That's all you could hear. It was very quiet. And I like that because again, it made the scene
brought
feel
you into
tense.
the moment. Exactly.
Yep. It pulled you in. You're like, ooh, like this isn't. And then again, little quippy, you know, she takes a shot in the dark, you know, literally a shot in the dark with a shotgun that she has, kills someone, and then music kicks back on again when the lights turn back
off
on.
the ground and hits like 3 of them.
And you're like,
that was
wow.
fucking great, dude. Yeah, because we should mention she's up in like the
rafters, like
the rafters of the building. So she's like up on like this little walk. Think of like in
catwalk,
theaters the catwalk. And so she jumps off of that and shoots down. But when she shoots down, the bullets ricochet off the ground. So you're like, dude, she has to have some kind of gun superpower because like what? But then she immediately was like, wow, that was so such a like literally shot in the dark.
Yeah, made the quote, I hate gambling. Shoots the gun, hits 3 guys.
Maybe I should gamble more. Yeah.
You know, and I was like, there it is. Little quips, but it's funny. Like little things like that. Actually, a little cheesy, a little corny, but funny. You know, it's product of its time. It's funny.
I enjoyed it. Exactly.
I enjoyed it. I had no problems with it. Again, another great moment. The last goon who didn't get hit runs over. Soon as the lights flick back on, the music turns back on. It's kind of like everything paused as soon as the lights turned off. Really, really good use of music. Really good use of the scenes. Such a good use. You know, I will praise these 3 OVAs, these 3 episodes to death over that. Such good use of music. Such good use of scenes and moments.
The music is really good because like I felt like everything's fast-paced throughout this whole OVA. Everything's just fast. And like I felt like the music complemented that really well because when the music makes it feel fast, just like the moments that the music's going in. The fast shots, the fast action, the dodging, the like, you know, all the crazy moves they're doing. Just awesome.
Yep.
But I'll let you bring us into episode 2.
Yep. So leading into episode 2, you know, was okay. And this is where, you know, let's lean back into it about the voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
This is when you get introduced to the, you know, we don't know who this is at first. You know, we get a scene of just the ATF, some ATF members investigating a crime scene, right? Suddenly, at first I didn't think it was a lady. It was, you know, this person starts walking in. They put in the code to get into the building where the ATFs are doing their work. And one of the guys comes over and thinks it's one of their other guys saying, hey, I don't remember who it was, saying, hey, Joe Schmo, you know, and they're like, wait, you're not Joe Schmo. Immediately gets blasted.
Tratti, comrade.
What?
Das Vidania.
Something out of the Terminator. I think, don't know, but it feels like this moment they wanted to build up a villain, which they did, you know, that's true. But the part where we don't know is we don't know how much of the Terminator they pulled from because this woman is basically the Terminator in this 5-minute scene.
It's so much. Everything, the jacket, the glasses, the way she's walking and moving.
The way she carries herself is just Terminator, you know, very Terminator. You know, she gets shot. She doesn't care. She doesn't flinch. She gets back up, blows some guy's organs out of his body. Wow. You know, amazing moment to build up a villain, to build up the power status of this character. And we get also a Shining moment, you know, because so we didn't explain this, but leading into episode 2, this is a safe house for Washington. The guy who was just put into custody now. And prior to this, Washington wanted Rally and Minnie to, you know, essentially protect him, but they said no.
Because his boss was going to kill him for knowing too much. So they said no, essentially, again, you know, because this is what's really interesting about these 2 characters. They're still in it for themselves. They're not in it to be heroes or to protect or to save people. They're in it for themselves. That's really, really, you know, I don't want to say a running theme for all these shows back in the early 90s, 80s, and 70s, but kind of was. We listed so many where it is. They're like, they're not heroes, but they're the heroes of the story. But they want to point out that they're not
heroes.
A hero numerous times. Blue Submarine, Cowboy Bebop, this show. You could even say Outlaw Star. Yeah, dude. You know what I mean? Space Dandy. Many dudes.
But even earlier, Desert Punk, like even Evangelion. They weren't, Shinji didn't want to be a hero, not to get off topic, but
Shinji, reluctant hero.
He didn't want to be a hero, that wasn't his goal. And a lot of these early 90s and 80s shows just exemplify that perfectly, that we're here for the money. We're here for ourselves. If it lines up with our goals, we'll help, but if it doesn't, well, you're on your own. Sorry. So they kind of say that, but Washington says, okay, well, if you can't do that, here, take these, Rolex in hand, and a note to give to his daughter.
Hold on, I've got an idea. If you can't help me, take my Rolex. All I'm asking is for you to deliver this to my daughter. Here, I'll give you her address.
Wait a second. Why should I do
Please, I'm begging you. This watch is all I've got to leave behind. Rally, please.
Time's up.
Wait a second. We're not finished talking yet.
No, I've heard enough.
Huh? But you can't.
Come on, May.
Rally? Oh. I was telling you the truth back there. You'll find out. But of course, I'm not going to be around to say I told you so, am
I? They even said no to that, too. Vincent and Minnie were still saying, why should we do that?
Exactly.
And that's
exactly.
Not to drive the point home, but that's kind of cruel in a way, too, saying, well, I'm dead anyways. And I won't be able, and he even says, I won't be able to have the last laugh because I'll be dead, But they say no, and the ATF agents come to get him. But Washington manages to give the note to Minnie still. And, Minnie
slips it in her back pocket.
Yep, and Minnie throughout this whole thing seems more like the empathetic type, still very selfish
she knew.
at heart.
You could tell they have that slow down moment where he slips the note into her back pocket. She acknowledges it and just keeps walking. And then Rowley
basically says, hey, you just took on.
She just gave her a look. Rowley looked back and was basically I saw that that's in your back pocket kind of thing.
Well, Rowley also says you just took on a mission that. She even says you basically took on a job with no benefits. You just took on a job with no benefits. And Minnie said, well, I'm curious to see what he means by this, because why give us a Rolex and a note? So Minnie was actually curious. But Minnie kind of comes off as very childish. Yeah, and very childish.
She's new to the game. Rally, we feel is the experienced older sister that is I'm going to teach you the ropes of being an assassin, for hire.
Gun for hire, pretty much saying, hey, I know where this leads to. Almost like she kind of has been down that road saying, I know where taking a job with nothing to gain comes, where that leads to typically. Either I lose out on something or I lose something, But so Washington gets taken away. And that leads into the moment where we meet this overwhelming force that just demolishes the ATF. Again, Terminator-esque. We don't know if he drew from inspiration from the Terminator, but it definitely feels like it. The
way she walks in and fucks up the ATFs like it's the police station that the Terminator in the first movie goes in and fucks up. There's no way that it's not an influence. You know what I mean? It's blatant, but not in a bad way. It's blatant, but not tasteful. In a bad. It's a tasteful nod to the Terminator because, man, I fucking love this chick. I forget what her name is. I've just been calling her the Russian. But
so you don't find out. You find out later what she's called, but she's called Natasha. Her name is Natasha. Natasha. And of course I said, of course, Black Widow. Black Widow. I was like, oh man, Natasha. Wow, what a very clever Russian name. Natasha.
Just what is this? Boris and Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle? Come on.
You may be ex-KGB, but money's your master now. So what's the price for a night in your bed, eh?
Cut it out, you jerk.
Yeah? What?
Right.
Miss Rednov? It looks like the boss has another assignment for you. For a separate fee, of course.
Who's the hit?
Yeah, so, but there's also a moment, too, before she makes the kill on Washington, where she basically breaks down the door like The Shining and says, here's Johnny. And that moment I said, man, they're pulling from a lot of the fun tropes, and I love that, A lot of the horror. Again, you're trying to build up a villain here, someone who feels like they're gonna give the protagonists a run for their money, and she does. She really does. She does not die.
It's crazy how they first meet, too, because she runs them off the road.
Oh, yeah.
As they're driving. And she's not even after them yet. They just happen to pass by each other.
Yep.
And then Rally gets a look at her and is like,
I'm going to remember you, bitch. Yeah, I'm going to remember this bitch's face.
This bitch, dude.
You know what I said? Standard Chicago behavior. Also, if we didn't explain this does take place in Chicago. This is in Illinois, Chicago.
That bitch is dead. I won't forget that face.
Rally.
So it's cool to see how Americans look in a Japanese point of view kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Well, also to bring it back too, which is very interesting. In episode 1, they did show the Chicago flag, which is a 4-star, 4 red stars and 2 red lines on a teal flag. I said, wow, good attention to detail. I'm actually shocked.
That's what I'm saying. I really felt like that was a Chicago city. He did a good job,
Yeah, kudos to Sonoda. He did a really good job. Really, again, people would say, well, some people today would say, is that offensive? No, I think the interpretation he's giving is basically what the perspective of America was back then. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, moving on from that, after you meet her, again, I don't want to say it slows down because it really doesn't, because now you have Rally and Minnie, they essentially get interrogated eventually by the ATF as well, because the ATF have wired their home with a ton of bugs. And so Bill...
And we should mention, too, there's a B plot with Bill that kind of knows that there's a informant in the ATF, and he's low-key, trying to figure out who that could be, because everything that they keep doing, the bad guys are being, led on too early.
2 steps ahead. They feel 2 steps ahead of what the ATF is doing. And, there's a moment especially where we don't know who it is. You find out in episode 3 who it is, but you get a moment where Bill's confronted by, I didn't know his name. It was probably his name was told before. His name is George, but he's actually the head of the ATF, and he tells Bill specifically, hey, you're off the case. I need you off the case. And that kind of comes back. You kind of understand why he says that later. You'll find out why. But there's a powerful scene where you see the reflection of Bill kind of, he's sorrow. There's a lot of sorrow and sadness in the eyes saying, why am I off the case? There's a reflection. You get to see the reflection of him in George's glasses. Very much like that scene is painted beautifully too.
We did see George in episode 1, and that's what I was alluding to, is that they have a scene in George's office where Bill basically says there's a mole inside the ATF, and George is like, what? Where? You're like, what? We need to sniff him out. We need to find him. Blah blah blah. He's kind of like, all right, yeah, okay. There's a mole. We'll find him. Don't worry about it. Here's your next mission, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so now we're in episode 2, and again, after everything that's happened, George comes up and he says a line which I thought was really cool, because he said, "Do you want to win a medal or do you want to win the war?"
Tell me the truth.
But sir, you can't think that those guys were my friends.
I want you off this case, now.
You can't! You don't really think I'm guilty, do you?
I'm finding it hard to deny that there's a major leak in your investigation.
Then let me handle it!
Bill, this isn't a field of honor, it's a war. Do you want to win medals or battles?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right, cool. Because if that was half a second where I was like, maybe it's not him. Spoiler.
Yeah. Spoiler.
We'll go into we'll go into
it. Not to jump too far ahead, but yeah, I mean, he does a good job basically saying, listen, we're not giving up on this. This.
Yeah, you felt like he was a good commissioner at that point,
Yeah.
When he said that, I was like, oh yeah, maybe it is. Maybe he should step down for a second. Maybe even I was sitting there being like, oh, maybe he is too involved in this.
Well, he was like overheating. Bill was almost overheating throughout the whole thing, you know, but for good reason. I mean, you think about the time frame it's in. You know, this is the 70s. This is supposed to take place in the 70s. You had the Scarface incident. You know, you had all those massacres and the deaths in Chicago. You would think the police, the ATF, would want to protect its citizens because just had a moment. You know, I recently went to Chicago and I saw the memorial for, you know, all, you know, the mafia being there, you know, and how that started, all the death that was involved, all the innocent people getting killed in the streets, you know. So this almost feels right that when the commission says, listen, we need to win the war, you know, this is one fight, but the war, we can win the war, you know, so take a step back, recompose yourself. Because again, it's almost felt like Bill was overheating throughout this whole thing, you know, really didn't know where to take, you know, really didn't know what direction to go in anymore. He kind of felt lost because, like he said, in episode 1, he realizes there's a mole, and he's getting more paranoid, more and more paranoid. And this is it was a really good moment. You know, again, like you said, it felt like George was on our side the whole time going, oh, like, wow, what a smart guy to say that.
Yeah, dude, like I literally felt like he was like a caring
mentor
grandpa
figure.
character.
Yeah, like a mentor figure.
Yeah, exactly. But so how did you feel about episode 2? You think it was better than episode 1?
I think there were a lot of moments that were okay. So I forgot to mention this about episode 1, but there was a lot of mundane animations in there that felt like they were just there to be there. Good example was when they were filling out the paperwork for the guns, for the K9 officer's commission for his gun. She was just writing on the paper. Nothing was being written down. And it was the same kind of motion repeated, except like one frame down, one frame down, one frame down. Look like she's actually writing something. Nothing was being written on the paper. And they kind of hung on that paper for a good like 10 seconds while she was writing things down. I'm going, my guys, I'm like, was this necessary to hang on this shot for so long if you're not actually going to be writing down anything on that paper? For, you know, again, you could tell she was being serious about writing and taking down the notes for the commission, but nothing was being written down. And they hung on that shot for so long. But in this, it feels like episode 2, they really figured it out. And they said, okay, no unnecessary shots. We're going to animate only the necessary shots that are supposed to be designed for the scene. So even shots of, you know, one of my favorite shots was when they blew up the ATF. Bill and the ATF who are staking out, you know, obviously they have, like we said, the whole house wired and bugged. They figured it out. You know, they sent Becky out to distract. We didn't know it was a distraction for Minnie to place miniature explosions on the bottom of their van. And when they drive away, Minnie's just there smiling, going, Dad, you good?
And Becky's involved too. We should mention that too. Becky gets like caught up in it all, but she just kind of wants to wait in the car.
Oh, we all have that friend. I don't want to go in.
She's numerous times. She's like, nope, that's a you guys thing. I'm going to wait out here.
Sorry, Becky, you'll have to stay here.
It's all right. I wouldn't come if you asked me. I know.
But somehow gets dragged into it anyway.
Because we should mention Becky is like the girl in the chair, but she also is like their agent, where like she's the one who's supposed to handle the money, take the missions, and all that guy. Because she gets mad when May took the mission to begin with, because she's like, "What are you guys doing? You took a mission without me," and blah blah blah. You remember?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, too, is like, this goes back to the first scene where they're on the phone. That was Becky. You know, you find out that is Becky. And like you said, she's more of the secretary. She's the secretary in a way. You know, she's very smart, computer smart, knows what she's doing when it comes to anything that's not fighting. But that's fine. That's her role. Her role is to be essentially the intel gatherer, the mission gatherer, the one who vets everything properly. And yeah, you could tell she wasn't happy because she was like, well, what's in it for us? Like, we do this. What's in it for us? Like, we're not getting anything out of this. But, you know, Vincent, you know, Rally kind of says, oh, no, it'll be fine. You know, everything will be okay. You know, basically reassuring her the whole time. I mean, the funny thing is when she's like, Al, we'll treat you to dinner. And Becky goes, not Chinese and not and not Italian food. Okay. She's like,
just please, not pizza and no Chinese.
No Chinese. Stop. You know, and then, you know, again, Rally all in the car together. Becky's like, where are we going? It's like, where are we going? And they're like, we're going to do this. And then we'll take you out for dinner. I said I'll take you out for dinner, but you kind of get a sense of what her character is. She's the no nonsense type of character.
Yep.
But gets dragged into the no nonsense stuff constantly. So she's kind of that I'm done with you guys type of attitude all the time.
You guys are my pain, but I love you, but you guys are such a pain. She's the oldest sister.
But the Russian. So essentially,
so to continue with the story, we start off with the car chase, and then the car chase turns into meeting the Russian chick, and then we have the big climactic battle. I'll let you jump into that. Not climactic battle, but of the episode.
Of the episode, you learn that Rally and Minnie have hits on them as well. They essentially... You see that there's a dossier for them, a whole spreadsheet printed out about both of them. Natasha's basically saying these are my next two targets, right?
Yep.
Yes, you're going after them. So
because she kills Washington.
Yeah, Wash is dead now.
Now her new that was her main goal, and now her two other subjects targets are May and Rally.
Yep. So it all leads into one big car chase, and it was pretty fun because Minnie gets kidnapped. For the whole thing, because throughout the incident, so like I said, they go to this warehouse where Becky didn't want to be there because of course she didn't want to be there.
Yep.
And now that Bill is off the case. Obviously enough, he's a detective still. He doesn't want to be off the case. So he still basically followed Rally and Minnie and Becky to, where their hunch was leading. The hunch that they had was leading them to. Because they figure out where the guns, So this whole thing revolves around guns. And, of course, Gunsmith Cats, Wow, play on words, guys.
And the villain has a knife.
And the villain,
that's her. I thought that was cool. That was guns versus her knife is the ballistic knife that you see the Punisher use, where she can shoot out the blade and stuff. But that's her main weapon. Well, I mean, not really. She has the trench coat that has every weapon you can think of in there, including the axe that she took to hack down the door. But we see her mostly kill with a knife. I thought it was a cool. I was are they doing that on purpose? The villain is the opposite weapon of choice as the obviously guns from Gunsmith Cats.
So you also So what's interesting too is you kind of realize when that dossier about both Minnie, you don't see anything really about Minnie per se, but you get to see more about Vincent. And you get to see what her background is. Apparently, they're both from the United Kingdom, as far as I could tell. So, maybe Minnie's from the United States because blonde affiliation with Japanese usually is from the West, so United States. But Rally's clearly from the United Kingdoms. And one thing that was really funny was I was like, she's 5'7". I'm like, why is she so tall? I'm like, she's humongous in my eyes. I'm like, I'm like, why is she so tall, guys? Natasha must be 6 feet tall because she was humongous. Again, Terminator status. And you're like, wow, these people are. Again, this is supposed to be in America too, so people are pretty tall in America, guys. And I'm my God, she is humongous, in comparison to these cops in the ATF, in the ATF detective. She must be over 6 feet tall.
It was a good job because it made her feel like an unstoppable force. You know what I mean? But she was intimidating. I was scared of her.
I made the joke that she basically looks like the Roy Mustang of this universe.
I saw that earlier in the notes, dude, and God damn it, bro, that is so true. Right when I read that, I was like, oh, she does look like the gender swap version of Roy Mustang
from Full Metal. I was like, why does she look like Roy Mustang?
Especially because I'm rewatching Full Metal because my friend Nermal, the one I just did the Naruto movie review with, now that she finished Naruto as her first anime, I got her into Full Metal, and I've just been seeing a lot of Roy Mustang lately. So I was like, "Oh, dude, identical
Great. Twins." But I think, I think the way they end the episode is really good. Again, Minnie gets kidnapped because they go to the warehouse where all the guns are. Like I said, Becky manages to figure out what Washington was trying to do with the note she gave Minnie. So I'm going to call her Minnie May, Minnie.
Yeah.
So they figure out there was actually a log for where the guns were coming from and how many there were, where they were being
who the
stashed,
provider
who the provider was, what country they were imported
who the seller
from.
was, exactly.
Yep. So they figure it out. So they go to the warehouse. Like I said, it's a hunch that it's at this warehouse. They figure it out. And that's when you get the interaction with Natasha. Natasha shows up basically to spoil all the fun for them. And again, you get another Terminator moment because you think in these moments like, wow, we got her, guys, we got her, because it all leads into a big car chase scene, very similar to what we got in Riding Bean. Another good parallel of really well animated car chase scene.
There was a few throwbacks to Riding Bean because we also know that Natasha's cloak, whatever trench coat that she wears is bulletproof, just like Bean's clothes was bulletproof, because she does the same thing where she gets shot numerous times. I think it was a shotgun.
She got blasted.
Yeah, she was crouched over, and then she just stands up, and the bullets just fall right off of her. And I was like, oh, that was a Bean moment.
We also got some more Bean moments with Rally. Again, Rally is technically in this universe not the partner of Bean, but obviously it's supposed to be the same character, spiritually speaking.
Yeah, well, in the manga, so we looked it up, and in the manga, the creator gets the rights. It was a rights thing why he couldn't add Bean into the OVA, but he was able to add him into the manga. And I guess he shows up and he's kind of like a wild card. He's not Rally's partner in this. They partner up, but he's also doing his own thing, kind of like the Russian. He's like another hitman. Sometimes they'll merge their missions together. Sometimes they could be opposing each other, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good dichotomy. I mean, again, but even without him here, you can kind of feel the Beans, the Beanisms, as I'm going to call it, because the Beanisms, wow.
I like Bean moments. Bean moments.
Bean moments. The more you know, but. There's a moment where literally, so Rally's car is actually a Shelby GT500, so it's a Ford. It's a very nice muscle car. She loves that car. She loves that car, and it's very similar to how Bean loved his car. There's a moment where Natasha essentially dings her car, and she just goes, "Oh hell no! You do not mess with my car."
Yeah, she's pissed,
and goes into how Bean basically went into berserker mode with his car, basically manages to somehow influence their car to drive even faster to catch up to their car. But that's one moment. Again, throughout the whole chase scene.
Fun fact, I found out that Sonata, I found this out during the research when we were doing Riding Bean, that the car that Rally has is the car that the detective had in Riding Bean. So the detective, the one that was trying to hunt down Bean the whole time, you know how he got the fancy car and the tires got slashed? They took that car and gave it to Rally.
Yeah, I remember too also saying it was something about the car not fitting the time period correctly either. The one they wanted to give her, it wasn't going to fit the time period. So it made more sense to give her the GT500. Mm-hmm. So, and which, all reasons aside, I mean, I mentioned this prior in my notes, but man, I wanted to listen to what the GT500 sounds like, and they nailed the sound. The sounds perfectly emulated it. Pretty sure honestly, I'm pretty sure they just got the sound bit for GT500.
The sound, why would they not? Yeah, it sounds like perfect. An easy get for them, for a studio at least. Like a well-established studio.
Yeah, it was, I mean, the whole car sequence was fantastic. I think this is one of the most shining points for the episode for me. It was again, I think besides episode 1 being slow, this is just pedal to the metal the whole time, and, both figuratively and literally pedal to the metal. But I really liked how Rally has so much trust in May doing her thing. And she was like, she'll wake up. Because, again, May's been captured at this point, but Rally's not that worried, honestly, about May as much as you would think.
She's trained her,
Yeah, she's confident that she's going to do the right thing, and she does. She I don't know what she did, spark plugs or something, but she made miniature C4 out of what looked like spark plugs. And, the whole time was battling, I don't know why the Russian wouldn't, Natasha wouldn't have just shot Minnie right then and there, if I'm being honest, because the whole time Minnie was trying to essentially distract or drive them off the road by jumping onto her. And I'm like, why wouldn't Natasha just not shoot her in that moment? She tried to later on, but then that's when you realize the whole time Minnie was distracting her to basically make miniature C4 and put him in the car.
Because then she jumps and starts like messing with the wheel. She jumps up front and starts grabbing her. I'm chalking it up to because Natasha did her homework. She knew that she was going to need. I felt like she probably felt like she couldn't take Rally on a one-on-one. And if she had some kind of leverage, that was going to level out the playing field for her.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be any of those cases, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she was. No, because, getting into episode 3, we'll get into it, but maybe she wasn't supposed to kill them. Maybe she was supposed to take them alive, but it's never explained why.
She gets, Rally gets May back and ends up scarring Natasha in the ear. And like that kind of like mentally like upsets Natasha because she's supposed to be like the perfect killing assassin. You don't get a leg up on her. But now we can go into episode 3 because episode 2 was great. I feel like episode 3 is also a really, really good episode.
Oh, so kind of leading off from there, you think Natasha's dead because the whole time you're like, wow, we did it. She could, because we didn't say it, but at the end, Natasha basically drives off a what are they called? The bridges that lift up for boats.
I don't know that there's a specific name.
A drawbridge. Essentially, it's a drawbridge.
Right.
So the bridge is up for the boat going by, but after they get Minnie back, Minnie has a few more C4, spark plug C4 set up and ready to go. So Natasha drives off the bridge. Minnie detonates that, and Natasha screams pretty loudly, like a death curdling scream. You think she's dead because the whole car's engulfed in flames. Drives off the bridge. You think she's dead.
May, just what did you do? That was good work.
Rally!
We did it again, May. But it's not over yet.
Huh?
We've got a little more work to do to finish this.
So, leading into episode 3, now you're at the police station with Minnie, Becky, and May. And, May, Vincent, and Becky. You're at the police station, and they start questioning the police, saying, who was that? Like, who was this person? Because they don't even know. They're like, who is this person? Like, why were they even after us? Like, what's going on?
Yep.
And the police is more upset because they're like, well, why were you getting involved in this? Like, and I'm like, well, we were dragged into this. Like, what? So, like, we deserve some answers too. Like, we don't know either.
No, seriously though.
But it was really interesting too because the whole thing is, I like to go back to saying this time period, they depicted Russians as badasses. So it was really cool that whole time that leading into episode 3, I'm like, man, what a badass. But yeah, you get the dossier on her because this kind of just secures the fact that she was a badass. Former USSR soldier, turned assassin. Not turned assassin, but turned into a mercenary. She's a merc. She's a bounty hunter as well. Very similar to our 2 protagonists, a bounty hunter. So
yeah, the hunter becomes the hunted.
Yep. So the whole time, you're like, wow, they managed to defeat someone with such a repertoire on their, or such all these merits and a dossier that just screams, I'm them. I'm him. Like I can kill anybody. I can do anything. But do you think it's over? Like I said, the police is there. They're questioning them, and once that's all over, they're free to go. They leave the station. So they leave the station, and there's a knife in Allie's car. Like, oh, it's not over, huh? And that kind of leads into how I feel about episode 3. Like, I'm going to say right now, episode 3 was my favorite. I think episode 3 was just perfect. I maybe not completely from an animation standpoint, but from a storytelling aspect, the way they animated scenes, this is one of the most perfect stories. Because one thing that some animes and some games, or even some movies, don't get right is how to set up a revenge plot. Again, this was a 3-episode OVA, but this basically set up a revenge plot. And my first thought was, wow, they must have wounded her pride so badly that she does not care. She just wants them dead. Like she will do everything in her power to just end these two girls' lives because her pride has been completely wounded. And
before it was just the job. Now it's personal.
Now it's all personal.
It's like, exactly.
And that kind of led into the next scene, which was her going through almost a psychotic breakdown. Like what you would expect from someone who has a lot of mental issues. Broken glass everywhere. Cut off their hair. I wouldn't know. Wouldn't know. But you cut to her doing that. I said, oh, wow. Yeah, it is personal because she's staring at the mirror, just having it happen. I bet, in context, I bet you if this was a book or even there is a manga for this, and I didn't read it, but I bet you if this was a book, there'd been
it's on my list now, though.
Oh, me too. There would have been an inner monologue probably of her going through how much she's gonna just ruin these people for what they did to her and her pride.
But even then, with the OVA, they did such a good job visually showing that to us that we got the premise. You know what I mean? It was a little nick in the last episode during their little battle. Rally shot her in the ear, so she has a little chunk of her ear missing, and this just fucking sets her off because it's the Terminator got hurt, the god bled, you know what I mean? This unstoppable thing can be hurt. So she's fucking losing it, and now she wants revenge.
Oh yeah, so I honestly think that's why for me, just the way they're already, not to say the storytelling in the other 1 or 2 episodes is bad or anything, but this is just perfect. I said this is just a way to set up another story because again, there is an overarching story, which is the guns. The guns. Where are they coming from? Who's importing them? Why are they getting imported? What's the reason? That's the main story. But now we got a story within a story. We got the subplot now, which is Natasha wants a revenge. She wants to run back against these two girls. So, continuing on from there, though, again, more ATF, you learn, this is when we learn that who was actually giving the information in the ATF. And it turned out to be the commissioner, the head of the ATF, Bill's boss. You learn that it was him the whole time.
Yep.
And once again,
number 6.
Yes, that's a safe house we were supposed to have shut down.
So who's still using it? George Black? No way! You mean my boss is the one behind this? So where is he?
He turned in a vacation request yesterday. He's already gone.
Don't want to hang up on this, but what beautiful storytelling from a emotional, tonal perspective. Bill comes in, comes to what seems to be a safe house for Natasha because he had to put in a code to get into the building. It seems like to be a safe house. He comes in there saying, hey, I can't keep this up. I can't keep lying. They're on to me. Because Becky figures it out too. Not only did Bill's essentially Bill's assistant figure it out, but Becky also figured it out at the same time. So he's like, I can't keep this up. And there's panic in his voice. You can hear the panic, which kind of goes back to how much that deconstructs his character when he told Bill, hey, we got to win the war, not this fight. We don't have to win this battle. We just got to win the war. Completely just broke down his character. And amazing. And
you could tell he knew his number was up. He's like, I can't keep covering for you guys. This is it. And he was like you said, he panicking like Anakin.
But that's good storytelling right there. Because again, you have this image of George initially saying, he's probably trying to do his best, good guy, etc.
Yeah, exactly. He's been there for a while. He's just trying to keep everything together,
But then to see him sweating the whole time, saying, "We need to get out of here. You need to get me out of here. I need to come with you." And God, again, beautiful storytelling. Natasha just peeks over, half her body's showing, saying, "I need to get you out of here." It's like the boss has other things we need to be doing, one of which is getting rid of, trash. We need to get rid of the trash. And you read that and they're like, "Oh, the trash. Oh, okay." I know where this is going.
Mercantile.
Yeah, I know where this is going,
Deleted.
But you can tell because this whole time, George is just in his own head. And right then and there, he's in his own head, can't kind of figure out what Natasha's implying, saying, "Well, I'm going to, we have other plans now." And George is still just in his head saying, "Well, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here." You can tell that's his character. He's a rat. He's a snake. He's a real snake. He's a rat.
Now, do you think Bill knew the whole time? Like, do you think Bill knew in episode 1?
No, that's why he was pissed. Remember, he was mad when he found out it was his boss. When, I'm trying to remember, his assistant came up to him and said, "Hey, it's your boss."
Yeah, I was shocked because the way he was, the way he was shocked about it. But then, like I said, I had to watch this a couple of times. And by the third time, when you watch him in episode 1 sitting there and basically telling him that there's a rat, I almost got the sense that he's like, might be you.
I think I'll argue that because when he found out there was a rat, why would the first thought be my boss? You know what I mean? I feel like in many situations it wouldn't be, well, my boss is the rat. I mean, okay. Again, let's start a flame war here. I feel like in modern day, the first thought is, well, it's probably the CEO or probably your boss.
It's been done so many times.
Yeah.
I had the feeling that maybe he was leaning toward him, but then eventually felt okay with the way, again, with the way that everything George was saying was actually making sense. Like, hey, you are too invested in this.
Yeah, I think that's. But again, you start to understand that was him just throwing him off the scent.
Yeah.
And because again, I think,
and it worked.
I think George knew the evidence was clearly there to say it was him. You know what I mean? Because it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, who's assistant, basically said, "Hey." Because again, George definitely could tell he had a time. He had a time limit on how long it would take for people to figure out. So he was doing everything in his power to just not to deceive people, but he wanted to make sure it wasn't coming back to him. Even though, like you said, maybe there was a hint that it was his boss, but it never came off that way when Bill was accusing people or trying to think about it. It never seemed to occur to him it was his boss. Not once.
Yeah,
it seemed more like it was someone. Again, I don't. There was no hints to me or no clues to me that tipped me off saying it was him or anybody. Honestly, I didn't even think it was anybody part of the ATF in my head. Maybe because I'm not thinking in that sense. Since obviously it is a crime show, so yeah, who's more likely to be able to leak information from the ATF? Probably someone who's in the ATF, or someone who's wiretapping the ATF. You know what I mean? But that's true crime shows for you. But kind of getting back to it, I mean, Natasha basically says we need to take out the trash. My boss is giving me new orders, which I actually think in that instance that's not her boss. I think she's making an excuse because let's be honest. We already established this is personal now. I think she was going to do everything in her power to basically say the mission. I don't care about the mission anymore. The mission's done. I'm here now to just.
And it's only gonna help her. You kill the commissioner to the police, it's gonna throw the police department into chaoticness. So that's only gonna help her getting rid of the trash, loose ends. And one of the things that are going to oppose her in the long run, which would be the police.
But, the other thing to support that, too, really will come later. And I'll kind of circle back to it. But, no. So Natasha ends up capping. And I mean capping. She shoots him right in the head. Shoots George right in the head. The commissioner's now dead. I was at first, because this was one of my bigger complaints. Since this is based off of runs parallel to Riding Bean, I was like, well, where's the gore? Because there was a lot of people getting killed, shot. You saw a lot of blood, but I said, Riding Bean, the first 5 minutes of Riding Bean, you watch a cop get his head blown off by a shotgun.
Yeah.
And I said, where's the gore? Well, let me tell you, when Bill actually comes to investigate the scene, they didn't hold back. You saw the bullet hole in his head, blood everywhere. And I said, wow. I was like, okay. Wow.
There it is.
Good for you guys. Wow. You know what? Yeah. You guys, that did not disappoint. I said, wow. Yeah, that's what I want to see, because this is dark. This is a crime show. It's supposed to be dark. They're not shying away from the darkness behind all the deaths, the people getting killed, murdered, vice versa. So Bill shows up and he's like, man, I knew, because he found out from Kathy, his assistant, that it was him. He's like, I need to go confront him now. I know where the I know the safe house where he's been meeting up with Natasha is.
Yep, and now he knows the code.
Yep, and he was shocked. I think Bill did not expect him to get killed there. Because like I said, I don't think it was her boss, Natasha's boss on the vibe. I think this was just her.
She's going off the playbook.
Yeah, she's now doing her own thing. She's done. So this whole, and I love Bill's character, actually. I really think they did a good job writing Bill, because when they're doing the investigation on George's body, he immediately says, don't touch anything. Tells his partner, don't touch anything.
Yep.
Because he knows, it seems like he knows from experience that criminals like Natasha, even criminals like, I don't know, not criminals, obviously, but bounty hunters like May and Rally, are very slick and very...
Dude, and it's a great scene, because he's like, don't touch anything, and he's like, all right, I won't touch the body. Picks up the phone, and...
Says, why'd you touch something? Says, you touched something.
He's like, what do you... He's like, well, I'm gonna call the number that we just got, and he calls it, and right as Bill's leaving, the partner puts the phone back in the handle,
the house blows
the
up.
whole house blows up, and you're like, oh, fuck.
Huh? Jody!
I pushed the redial. Maybe we'll find out who the last person he talked to was.
Are you deaf? We're dealing with a professional. Don't touch anything until it's been checked.
Don't worry. Nothing happened. Oh, it's connecting.
You have reached Eddie Haynes' office. Our office is closed now. So
who is Eddie Haynes?
A state senator and a friend of the chief's.
And if the chief called him from here...
Then Radenoff, the chief, and Haynes are a team. Ugh. Rally said she was going to go meet some VIP. Jody, don't touch anything else. Got it?
Hey, Bill, wait a minute. Hey, where's the fire pig guy?
I knew it. Rally.
But you know what? Even prior to that, you kind of get that feeling that was going to happen for two reasons. One, when Bill said, don't touch anything, don't touch that corpse, he immediately susses out there was a live grenade right there in the trench coat of the commissioner. He knew right away from experience. You could tell he's very experienced in this stuff. But then number two, when his detective basically said, what was it? What did the detective say? He said, hey, where's the fire big guy, before he hung up the phone. I was like, oh, he's dead. I was like, oh, he's dead. Oh, he's dead.
Great. It was great.
Yeah. Oh, the cheesy humor. I was like, it's cheesy humor, but it's good humor. It's funny. I was like, I'm like, yep, and he's going to die in 3, 2, 1. And the helmet blows up. And I was like, my God. I was like, okay. Whew. But yeah, I mean, that leads, honestly, this whole episode was more or less just focused in on the vendetta now Natasha has against, obviously, the overarching plot. We start to find out that the one who's going to be running for mayor.
I think it was running. I think we saw him at a
rally. He was going to a rally.
Yeah, I think he was a councilman.
I can't remember. I forgot to take that in consideration.
Yeah.
But essentially, either he was running to be mayor or running to be the Senate for Illinois, which again, I don't think that was the case.
One of the two, but we saw one of his rallies.
And you see that he just hung up the phone with Natasha saying everything, essentially saying everything's going according to Keikaku, everything's going according to plan, everything's working out perfectly, and then you get to the rally and kind of you can tell how smart he is. Like you said, he hasn't given up on eliminating Rally and Minnie, so that's why he invited them so he could have them eliminated still. So, again, kind of disprove my point. Maybe it wasn't him on the maybe when I said it wasn't him on the phone. How would he coordinate with Natasha to kill Rally and Minnie at the rally? At his I don't know what politicians call them now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll just call them rallies.
At his rally,
Yeah.
Because he planned on having them come there and have Natasha kill them right then and there.
Yep.
So that's not much happens between there other than Rally
in the final battle. Now we get to the final confrontation between Natasha and the girls.
Yeah. So, I mean, what'd you think of it? Because I thought the way they shot a lot of the scenes was smart, very dynamic, good storytelling. Again, it was simple. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the animation was very simple, but it was simple in a way that was they used the scenes to a degree that was masterful.
Yeah.
Certain shots were just so not powerful, but impactful, because Natasha shows up to the rally, and again, she's there to kill Rally and Minnie right then and there, because that's what
the job was.
The job was to do. But she shoots right at the politician. I'm going to call him politician. He shot at Senator John Smith, and he got pissed. He said that wasn't part of the plan. He had that look of, what are you doing?
Yeah, what the fuck
are you doing?
Exactly.
So that leads into, like you said, the final confrontation of Natasha gets the upper hand. Essentially, Natasha gets the upper hand against Minnie and Rally right away. Rally is really hurt, and throughout the whole fight, they weren't expecting this. They got basically ambushed, and I think they took it to a construction site, a place under development. I think. Yeah. So the fight basically leads, not the fight, but the chase to get to Natasha for the final confrontation took place basically in a developing buildings. And you don't, again, show don't tell, but Natasha gets the upper hand on Rally throughout the whole fight because she's more concerned about Minnie, because Minnie gets put into a very bad situation where she almost falls off the building. She does get rope burn. She falls off the building but catches herself on a pulley, and my body just tensed when I saw that.
Me too, dude. I saw you wrote that in the notes too, and I was like, "Oh yeah, bro." I remember wincing at that.
Yeah, but at first though, I didn't think anything happened to her because it's anime. You never know what's actually realistic or not.
Yeah.
But after Natasha shoots her ballistic knife into Rally's shoulder, Minnie manages to get her out of there by putting a flashbang into the bucket, into the pulley system where the bucket was.
And slings it up. Dude, again, such beautiful. That was animated so awesome.
So well.
I was like,
oh, there it is. Like, I love it.
I have beaten you, Rally Vincent. I'm going to make you pay for this little nick. I know a lot about Kane Bounty Hunter, and I'm going to share it all with you. I won't let you die quickly, After all, I can only hurt you while you are still alive.
Rally. Get ready to run.
So yeah, and that ended up leading to a whole chase scene. Now, instead of Rally and Minnie chasing Natasha, it's switched again, cat and mouse. Now it's back to them being the prey in the situation. And again, they didn't shy away from the gore. Rally is bleeding all over the place. Shoulder, I think she has some injuries close to her abdomen. It was
I
bad.
think her rib. I think she had some broken ribs.
Yeah, it was bad. It looked bad.
And there was a point too where Natasha pushed the knife even
deeper.
further.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! And I was like, "Ooh, dude!"
I was like, "Oh, okay, we're doing this." And she did the villain monologue speech, which is like, "You will not have a slow death." I was like,
yeah,
villain monologue, check.
Yep.
There it is. I'm like, you are being a supervillain now. You will not have a slow death. It's like, thank you.
But do you remember how Rally turned the tables?
So this kind of goes back to how I view Bill. Bill, you can clearly tell, was very experienced in dealing with bounty hunters. Well, that can go the same for both Rally and Minnie. Minnie's already, I don't know when she did it, but she already set up traps ahead of time. Tripwire grenades, the whole 9 yards of just decoys and traps everywhere. And at first I was like, wow, no, Natasha has them, because Natasha was also showing off how much of a vet she was in the field of being both a former soldier and a bounty hunter, using everything to advantage to basically foil Minnie's traps with a fire extinguisher for the main hallway with all the tripwires and grenades. She threw a fire extinguisher to completely trigger all of them. Even before that, when she was going through the window, she saw the tripwire and she didn't cut it. You know what she did?
Yep.
Carefully went over it, keeping everything intact.
Because the tripwire was also tripped. So she was like, oh, tripwire, I'm just going to cut it. And then she looked and she saw the C4 was connected. So the minute she cut it, it was going to explode. Brilliant.
Really, again, good storytelling without actually explaining the characters' backgrounds. Really good storytelling. You get the feeling that all of them are skilled
girls. Yeah, skilled girls.
Or in not only skilled, experienced veterans of the craft. You can tell. So well done. So eventually it leads into the bathroom. Natasha finds them because she's following the trail of blood, which show don't tell, but you could tell Minnie was anticipating this, purposely leading her on, trying to, and I wrote this down, the way they drew Natasha's facial expressions was amateur. Basically telling, she thought these people were amateurs because the way you could tell. That air of cockiness, that Terminator feeling was coming back to her.
Yep, you're not getting me with these dumb little traps, little kid.
Minnie and Rally broke her once, and she won't be broken again. That's the feeling I got. So that cockiness and confidence came back, and and they even said it too. Minnie and Rally both said her cockiness must have gotten to her because she clearly didn't check the other bathroom stalls for explosives. So as soon as she stepped in there, she knew what stall, and she did the right thing. Instead of immediately standing in front of that door, she stood at an angle where they probably couldn't hit her. Bad mistake, because the stall next to her was rigged with explosives too. And it definitely was it was like an IED, improvised explosives. Something you'd find in Afghan, where it was just shrapnel bomb that just blew out in one direction. And this time, she's dead. I promise. So, and also, I forgot to say too, Bill throughout this whole episode, what a trooper. Home blew up on him, and he still managed to get to the rally to warn Minnie and Rally about the danger. And then you think it's over, the Chicago police show up, they got the body, you see the body bag, they bring the body bag out. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention too, before all of this, To me, the main plot ended up being the revenge story of Natasha versus the Catsmith gang. I was like,
it really was.
I was like, oh yeah. But then before all this happens, it cuts back to Senator John Smith, or Senator John Doe, confronting Natasha. And I said, I thought she blew up. I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, I thought she blew up. I guess she's not dead. I guess we're having another smash cut. She lived. Yay. And you find out that Becky was actually working with Kathy, Bill's assistant, to basically blackmail and or expose John Doe, John Smith, the senator, of his plot. And you find out that, yes, he was the one inputting the guns and basically running this underground ring, illegal ring. And honestly, the dumbest reason too. You find out what his reason for doing it was, which was he wanted to, and again, don't get mad at me, make America great again, make Chicago great again, and get rid of immigrants. That was his reason.
He literally said, what did he say? Now I'm paraphrasing, but
I did it for America. I did it for America.
I did it for
to get rid of the immigrants.
Get out the illegals and the gangs and the illegals.
Yeah, I wanted to do it. He said I was so close to being able to get rid of the gangs and the illegals, I think.
I was so close. I could have cleaned out all the gangs and immigrants. I only did it for the good of the American people.
Something like that. It's something along those.
Yeah.
It's something along the supervillain monologue of, I did it for this.
I did it for America.
I did it for America. And I said, wow.
Where have we heard that before?
Which is funny because this is an old, but again,
the issues still lie there, dude. It is crazy. I remember hearing that and being like, "Oh my god, nothing's changed."
I said the exact same thing. I was like, "Wow,
nothing's
changed."
I said,
no matter what age, what generation, it's the same. I don't want to say propaganda because it's not really propaganda. It's the same narrative. The same narrative comes back, which again, he as a politician, his motives, etc., kind of took a back burner for me because I stopped caring, honestly.
yeah, it's more about Natasha.
Yeah,
does she who attacks Rally on the steps? Is it Natasha?
Remember, so Natasha, remember I said she's dead this time, right?
Right.
She's not. She pulls the last shining moment and bursts out of the body bag with an axe. And I was like, oh, there's the...
Yes.
I'm like, there's the... It's Johnny moment. She has the axe finally, She's come full circle.
The last jump
of
a horror movie.
But Bill was there again. Bill coming up big. Once again, kind of going back to Rally and Minnie are both strong women, but still need help.
And the shot, he had a good shot because and this is the second time he's done it where he shot the axe. That then went flying out of her hand, and I think he shot something else in one of the earlier episodes, also saving Rally at that point because he says his kitten line again.
Yeah, hey pussycat,
Admit it, sometimes I'm useful. I'm a real Elliot Ness pussycat.
Not you again.
It's a pet name he's been calling her throughout the 3 episodes. Is he calls her Pussycat and she calls him
Snake in the Grass. Snake in the grass. Which I think, to me, again, I wrote it down, such a funny way to keep bringing the humor back for them. It's very playful, and I love that. Again, I know this is back then this was probably a relatively serious anime or serious OVA, but for us it's a product of its time. It's funny to see, you see the humor, you kind of see the setups, and you're like, that's funny. I like that. now you've got a villain. You've managed to turn. The episode 2 was supposed to be a simple. We've stopped the villain. That turned into a whole revenge story. Now you got a whole revenge plot going on. Really, really well done.
And well tied up together. So and that's episode 3. Every one of them fantastic. Story, like I said, looped around amazingly. On a letter scale from F to A+, what would you put this series as, or this OVA?
So once again, I like to give the two letter system for me. I like to give the objective and the subjective. For me,
I love it.
For me, very personally, from a more, subjective standpoint, objective standpoint, I loved it, but I also loved that Riding Bean. So this just being a spiritual successor to Riding Bean, I gotta give this personally like a strong A. Like, this is a very strong A. 3 episodes was enough for me. I wanted more. I said I wanted more.
Amen. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. So that was your subjective. What's your objective?
Objectively, this is a solid B-, solid C+, somewhere between that range. Like, I'd probably say more of a B- because I don't think there was anything necessarily wrong with this anime by any means. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it, but also there's not enough of it either to really properly say, like, I know Riding Bean's the same way, but Riding Bean was specifically a 1-episode OVA. I feel like this could have been more than a 1-episode. 3-episode OVA. This could have been a full 12. I feel like because there was enough material to create a full-fledged anime of this, but we instead got 3 OVAs, which nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
again, short, sweet,
and
to the point.
Check out our Riding Bean episode, because we go a lot more into Sonata and Studio Gonzo and all that, and just kind of explain a little bit on what happened with money wise and different things.
But I'd say solid B- still. Solid B-. Solid B-. Like I said, if you really want to lower it to a C+, I would not object either to that.
I would even say, like, for me, I would give it an A. This was great. Okay. Objectively, I'll give it a B+.
Really?
Because it was still really good. Yeah, I don't have too many cons with it. It was like, I thought the dubbing was better. I thought animation was really, really, clean. Going into this, I was like, Bean's not in it, so how can I even remotely enjoy it as much as Riding Bean? But I did. Like, I ended up really caring about these characters. I thought the camaraderie between the characters was a lot better than, like, Rally and Bean's relationship in Riding Bean. So I thought everything in this was a step up from Riding Bean. So I will... for me, A, objectively, still even a B+.
Yeah, I will say, even though I give it a B- from a more, objective standpoint, if you're someone who's really into, into just understanding animation, and not from a how to draw or how to animate, but from a how do you use animation to tell a story, they do this very well. 3 episodes... but they tell a story, without it, without just that narrative. I could have just watched this and I could have understood just about everything that happened. Like I said, my favorite scene throughout this whole thing, sure, I like the car chase. Sure, I like the guns being shot off, but the scene when George gets killed, go look at that scene and you'll see how powerful that was. From the moment he walks in, talking to Natasha, you can see that they're clearly on what I'd say equal power. They're on the same power. However, as soon as Natasha shows her hand too, the power shifts. Every angle is taking more from a looking down at George rather than them looking at each other from the same plane. George is looking up. Natasha's looking down. So every camera shot was taken from a power perspective of, wow, George has lost his power. You can clearly see how much George has both lost he's lost control of the situation, but not only that, but he's lost that power status, especially from that camera angle of Natasha looking down on him, holding the gun. That is such a standard use of camera angles. it's just such another good use of it. And again, a very old anime. This is very old, people. This is not modern. We don't have the same technology. They didn't have the same technology that we do now that they did back then. And they still managed to make something like that feel very powerful and intentional. So if you like stuff like that, really understanding the usage of angles, camera direction, to tell a story, I think they do it perfectly. Again, A for me, B-, B+ for you, and an A for you as well. I think, generally speaking, if you've got the time, it's only an hour and 30. It's not a very long watch. Kind of like Beat, very short, to the point.
Completely free on YouTube.
Completely free on YouTube. It's just a good, fun show. Again, it's a good, fun show. Very much like Bean. Good fun. I can't recommend it enough. But I also would recommend you maybe picking up the manga too.
100%. I know I am. Matt, thank you so much for doing this, buddy. We're going to have to team up again. We already got our list of, we're going to start hitting all the Clamp.
Get ready, Clamp. We're going to be doing every
We're excited,
Clamp.
dude. Yep. We're going to be
Clamp,
hitting them all.
baby.
I'm so down, dude. But all right, guys, you can find us on all social media platforms, all podcast platforms, the Flashback Cartoon Hour. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even TikTok now. So come give us a like and get ready for another episode. And remember the 3 golden rules. Fight pollution, save the planet, and as always, be good to yourselves. Thank you guys, and have a good night.